Okay, let's unpack this. You've sent us a really interesting market report here. It's all about the global medical devices outsourcing market, specifically looking at 2025. I guess you're looking for a quick but pretty thorough understanding of what's going on in this space.
Exactly. Yeah, the idea with this deep dive is really to pull out the key stuff, the crucial insights from this report.
So things like the current size, the growth
Right,
forecasts.
how fast it's expected to grow, which regions are big players, which device types are leading the charge, and importantly, why this outsourcing trend is happening, what's driving it.
And we'll also touch on potential challenges, maybe future trends, all based on what's in the report, obviously.
Absolutely.
Think of this as your fast track, your shortcut to really getting a handle on the medical device outsourcing landscape right now. So let's dive in. What's the big picture, the overall size?
Okay, so the report projects that in 2025, the global market for medical device outsourcing is going to hit uh, about USD 131,421.5 million.
131 billion. Okay. And where does it go from there? Because these things tend to grow, right?
Oh, they do. And this one's projected to grow quite a bit. By 2033, the forecast is, get this, USD 354,354.4 year million.
Wow. That's more than double, yearly triple, actually.
It's a huge leap. It represents a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR of 13.20% between 2025 and 2033.
13.2% per year on average. That's substantial. Really substantial expansion.
It really is. That kind of sustained rate tells you there's a lot of energy, a lot of movement in this sector.
Okay, so where is all this activity concentrated? Geographically speaking, can you sort of paint a picture of the regional breakdown for 2025?
Sure. So in 2025, North America is definitely the heavyweight champ. It holds over 40% of the global market.
40%.
Yeah, the market size there is estimated at USD 48,625.96 million. And the growth forecast, the CAGR through 2033, is pegged at 11.6%.
And within North America, I assume the U.S. is the main engine.
You'd be right. The U.S. market alone is projected at USD 38,365.88 million for 2025. The DAGR is slightly lower than the regional average, 11.4%, but still very strong.
And what's driving that in the U.S. primarily?
It seems to be a mix. Demand for constant innovation, newer, better devices. Plus, navigating the whole FDA regulatory landscape often requires specialized knowledge, which lends itself to outsourcing.
Right, that makes sense. And Canada and Mexico, how do they fit in?
Canada's market is around USD 5,835.11 million, but look at the CAGR, 12.4%. That's actually higher than the U.S.
Interesting. Why might that be?
Well, the report suggests things like the aging population driving healthcare needs and also a push for more affordable solutions. Outsourcing can help with both.
Got it. And Mexico.
Mexico comes in at USD 4,424.96 million with a TGR of 12.1%. They're also looking at pretty healthy growth there.
Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic. Europe. What's the story there?
Europe's a major player too. It accounts for over 30% of the global revenue. In 2025, that's about USD 38,112.24 million.
And the growth, similar to North America.
Pretty close. The projected KGR for Europe is 12.2%. So yeah, while North America leads in size, Europe is a very significant and growing market too.
It's a big place, though. Any particular countries standing out within Europe?
Well, the UK shows a strong KGR, 13.0% on a market size of about USD 6,402.86 million.
Why so strong in the UK?
Could be factors like NHS budget constraints pushing for efficiency maybe, and also a demand for advanced devices.
Okay. And Germany, always a big manufacturing base there.
Germany's got a larger market size, USD 7,546.22 million, and a solid TGR too, 12.4%, probably driven by its robust healthcare system and that focus on high-precision engineering, even in medical tech.
Right. And the report lists quite a few others. France, Italy, Russia, Spain. Are they all in a similar growth range?
Generally, yeah. France is looking at 11.4%, Italy 11.6%, Russia 11.2%, Spain 11.3%. The KDRs are all clustered sort of in that 11-12% band, mostly.
And even some smaller northern European countries seem strong.
They do. Sweden's at 12.3%, Denmark 12.0%, Switzerland 11.9%, and look at Luxembourg, 12.5% CAGR. Even the rest of Europe category is growing at nearly 11%.
Okay, fascinating. Now let's pivot to Asia Pacific, or APAC. This region often comes up when we talk about high growth, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And this report confirms that. APAC holds around 23% of the global revenue in 2025. That's about USD 31,541.16 million.
Okay, so smaller than North America or Europe right now.
Right, but here's the kicker. The projected CAGR is 16.1%.
16%. That's significantly higher than the others.
By quite a margin, yeah. It's flagged as the fastest growing region. This really suggests, a potential major shift in the global dynamics of medical device manufacturing and outsourcing over the next decade.
That is a substantial rate. So who's driving that incredible growth in APAC? China, I presume?
China is definitely a huge part of it. Market size estimated at USD 13,247.29 million
Mhm.
and a CAGR of 15.6%. It's that combination of, cost-effective production capability plus rapidly growing domestic healthcare needs.
And India. I see a number here that jumps out.
Yeah. India's CAGR is projected at 18.0%.
18. Wow.
On a 2025 market size of about USD 3,154.12 million. That's likely fueled by a growing pool of skilled labor, engineers, researchers, and just expanding medical research within the country.
Incredible growth potential there. What about other key APAC players? Japan, South Korea?
Japan's still significant.
Nice.
USD 4,352.68 million market, 14.6% CAGR. South Korea is at USD 3,784.94 million with 15.2% growth.
And others? Australia, Singapore?
Australia, USD 1,640.14 million, 15.4% CAGR.
Okay.
Taiwan's also up there at 15.9%. And Southeast Asia as a whole block is showing 16.9%.
So across the board, really strong growth in APAC. Okay, let's shift focus again. South America.
South America accounts for just over 5% of the global revenue. The 2025 market size is estimated at USD 4,994.02 million.
And the growth outlook?
Still very respectable. The projected CAGR is 13.9%. So while it's a smaller piece of the pie compared to, say, North America, it's definitely not stagnant. Significant growth potential. Brazil's usually the largest economy there. Does that hold true here?
It does. Brazil's market is pegged at USD 2,137.44 million with a 14.5% CAGR. Likely reflects, their growing healthcare system and the need for affordable devices.
And Argentina. I see a high CAGR there too.
Yeah, Argentina's projected CAGR is 14.8% on a market size of USD 838.99 million. The report mentions regulatory hurdles, but also a focus on affordable solutions driving outsourcing.
Makes sense. And the rest of the region, Colombia, Peru, Chile.
They're all showing CAGR sort of in the 13-14% range. Colombia, 13.7%, Peru, 14.1%, Chile, 14.2%.
Right.
The rest of South America collectively is projected at 13.0%.
Okay. Moving on, let's look at the Middle East.
The Middle East holds a smaller share, around 2% of global revenue. That's about USD 5,256.86 million in 2025. But again, look at the growth at projected CAGR of 14.6%.
So another region with strong growth dynamics, even if the current size is smaller.
Exactly. It indicates a rapidly developing market for these kinds of services.
Which countries are leading the charge there? Saudi Arabia, UAE. Yeah, those are the big ones. Saudi Arabia, market size of USD 1,850.41 million. CGR 14.9%.
Yeah.
The USD 1,082.91 million market, and an even slightly higher CGR at 15.1%.
Interesting. Anyone else notable?
Turkey shows a very strong 15.2% CGR, maybe boosted by government support for manufacturing and healthcare. Qatar is also solid at 14.1%, perhaps benefiting from an emphasis on quality and safety.
Got it. And finally, Africa. What's the picture there?
Africa represents the smallest share currently, around 1% of global revenue in 2025. That translates to about USD 2,891.27 million.
And I'm guessing the growth rate is still decent.
It is, yeah. The projected CAGR is 13.5%. So even though it's starting from a smaller base, the growth potential is definitely there.
And within Africa, South Africa seems to be the largest market mentioned.
That's right. South Africa's market is about USD 1,017.73 million, with projected CAGR of 14.4%.
And Nigeria.
Nigeria's growth is also noteworthy, 13.7%. The report suggests maybe rising health and wellness awareness is a factor there. The rest of Africa collectively is projected around 12.7%.
Okay, that gives us a really good global map of where things stand and where the growth is happening. Now, let's switch gears a bit. What kind of services are being outsourced most?
Right. The report points pretty clearly to product design and development as likely being the dominant segment right now.
That makes sense, I suppose. Designing these devices requires pretty specialized knowledge.
Exactly. You need expertise to create cutting-edge stuff, patient-focused equipment, and companies are leveraging things like automation, AI, even 3D printing in the design phase now. Outsourcing gives access to that.
So the drivers are things like cost-effective design, faster time to market.
Yeah, and getting customized solutions that maybe they couldn't develop as easily or quickly in-house.
Okay, so that's the biggest chunk. What about the fastest growing service area for outsourcing?
That appears to be regulatory consulting and other services.
Ah, the red tape.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, navigating the global regulatory maze, FDA in the US, CE marking in Europe, ISO standards, plus all the specific national requirements. It's incredibly complex.
And constantly changing, I bet.
Exactly. So outsourcing this gives companies access to experts who live and breathe these regulations. It can speed up approvals, ensure compliance, help with market entry strategies, clinical trial support, all that critical stuff.
Yeah, I can see why that would be a high-growth area. Okay, now thinking about the devices themselves, are certain classes of medical devices outsourced more than others?
The report suggests Class 2 devices hold the largest share of the outsourcing market currently.
And Class 2 includes what sort of things?
These are devices with moderate risk, needing stricter regulatory control. Think infusion pumps, many surgical instruments, diagnostic imaging equipment like CT scanners or X-ray machines.
And why is outsourcing so prevalent there?
Probably because manufacturing these often requires specialized facilities, really rigorous quality control, and again, navigating those tougher regulatory hoops. Outsourcing partners often specialize in exactly that.
Makes sense. Is there a class where outsourcing is expanding particularly rapidly, though?
Yes, Class I devices, that segment is flagged as expanding at a rapid pace.
Class 1, those are the lower risk ones, right? Bandages, maybe some basic tools.
Exactly. Things like bandages, tongue depressors, some handheld surgical instruments, basic diagnostic equipment. They have minimal regulatory hurdles compared to Class 2 or 3.
So why the rapid growth in outsourcing them? Cost.
Cost is likely a huge factor. Getting these high-volume, lower-complexity items manufactured cost-effectively. Also, speed, quicker time to market, and scalability, being able to ramp up production easily to meet demand.
Okay, interesting distinction. Now, what about the application, the medical specialty? Where is outsourcing most common?
Cardiology seems to hold the largest market share right now in terms of application.
Not too surprising given how common heart disease is globally.
Right, the prevalence of cardiovascular disorders is a major driver. Outsourcing is crucial for developing and making advanced things like pacemakers, coronary stents, ECG machines, sophisticated monitors.
And is there a therapeutic area where outsourcing is growing fastest?
Neurology is highlighted as a rapidly growing sector.
Why neurology specifically?
Well, think about the increasing incidence of neurological conditions globally. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, stroke, epilepsy. There's a huge push for innovation in neurostimulation devices, advanced diagnostics like specialized MRI coils, and remote monitoring systems. Outsourcing helps companies develop and produce these complex devices.
Right, tapping into specialized expertise again. Okay, let's step back and look at the underlying forces. What are the main drivers pushing this whole outsourcing trend, according to the report?
It really boils down to a few key things. First, that relentless pressure for cost reduction in manufacturing. It's a constant theme.
Always trying to make things more efficiently.
Exactly. Second, there's increasing demand from patients and doctors for really high-quality advanced medical devices. Outsourcing can provide access to technologies or skills needed to produce those.
Okay.
And third, companies are increasingly focusing on their core competencies, maybe R&D, marketing, clinical strategy, and deciding to outsource things like manufacturing or even parts of design to specialized partners who can do it better or cheaper.
Makes sense. Focus on what you do best. But are there downsides? Any significant challenges or restraints holding the market back?
Yeah, there are definitely concerns. A big one is quality control and product safety. I mean, these are medical devices. Failures can have serious consequences. So ensuring your outsourcing partner maintains incredibly high standards is critical and maybe a point of anxiety.
I can imagine. What else?
Intellectual property.
Yeah.
When you share your designs, your proprietary technology with a third party, there's always a concern, however small, about potential IP theft or misuse. That's a risk companies have to manage carefully.
Right, protecting your innovations. Okay, looking ahead now, what about emerging trends? What's shaping the future of medical device outsourcing?
Two big technological trends stand out in the report. One is the rising adoption of additive manufacturing, 3D printing.
How is that changing things?
It allows for more customized device production, potentially faster prototyping, maybe more efficient small batch manufacturing, especially for complex geometries. It offers new possibilities.
And the second trend?
Increased use of artificial intelligence, AI, and automation. We're seeing this creep into design processes, quality control, predictive maintenance for manufacturing equipment. It promises greater efficiency, precision, and maybe even new design capabilities.
So a more technologically advanced future for outsourced production. Okay, finally, let's touch on the competitive landscape. Who are the big players?
Well, the leaders are generally companies that can deliver on all fronts. Innovation, cost-effectiveness, and rock-solid regulatory compliance. The report names several major corporations:
Like who?
Solistica Inc., Jabil Inc., Sanmina Corporation, Flex Ltd., and Integer Holdings are mentioned as major players.
Household names in electronics manufacturing, some of them.
Many have strong roots there but have built significant medical device expertise. But it's not just the giants. The report also notes increasing competition from emerging firms, especially in places like Latin America and Asia Pacific.
Offering maybe lower costs, but improving quality.
Exactly. Offering potentially low-cost but high-quality solutions, putting pressure on the established players.
And the report gave a couple of real-world examples of recent activity.
Yeah, just to illustrate, it mentioned a collaboration in China between the Shanghai Center for Medical Assessment and Inspection and a company called Emergo, focused on usability testing. That was May 2023.
Okay.
And another example from September 2022, Inspire MD, a medtech company, signing an outsourcing deal with NAMSA, which is a well-known contract research organization, specifically to speed up device development. So it shows how these partnerships work in practice.
Right. Concrete examples. Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. We've gone through a lot of numbers and regions and trends. What's the main takeaway for you from this deep dive?
I think the main takeaway is just how dynamic and rapidly expanding this global market is. It's not just growing, it's growing fast and across multiple fronts.
Yeah, you see significant opportunities popping up everywhere, different regions, different service types, different kinds of medical devices being outsourced.
Exactly. And that growth isn't random. It's fueled by really powerful fundamental factors. That need for cost efficiency isn't going away. The demand for access to specialized tech and expertise, growing. And the global need for more advanced medical devices, definitely growing.
And those regional differences we talked about are key, aren't they? The huge growth in APAC, for instance, that really signals a potentially significant shift in where manufacturing and innovation happen.
Absolutely. It suggests you need to look beyond just the traditional markets. The opportunities and maybe the competition are becoming much more globalized.
Also, looking at the fastest growing segments like regulatory consulting or the boom in outsourcing class side devices, that tells you where the immediate pressures and opportunities might lie,
Yeah.
where outsourcing is providing really clear value right now.
Right. It highlights specific pain points in the industry, like regulatory complexity or cost pressures on high-volume items that outsourcing is effectively addressing.
So hopefully this overview gives you, our listener, a really solid foundation, a good handle on the key trends, the figures, the forces shaping this medical device outsourcing market as we see it in 2025 and look beyond.
Yeah, it's a complex but really important part of the modern healthcare landscape.
And thinking about all this, it leads to a question for you to mull over, maybe.
Yeah.
Given everything we've discussed, the growth rates, the regional shifts, the different services and device classes, what specific aspect of this evolving market seems most relevant or perhaps most surprising based on your interests or your situation? Is it the potential impact of AI, the rise of APAC, the focus on regulatory hurdles? What stands out to you as worth exploring further?